Welcome. This is an introductory video for the course Construction Planning and Control, and the purpose is to give some context and background of the construction industry, and also construction planning as a very important task within the area of construction engineering and management. So the first thing to talk about is the construction industry, which is a huge part of the economy of any country. And it's made up mainly of residential construction and commercial building construction. These are kind of formed around 3/4 or even more than that, depending on the economy. But there are other also important segments of the construction industry. The heavy construction part, which is dealing mainly with infrastructure building or construction, so like dams, tunnels, bridges, roads. And then there is the industrial construction, which deals with like oil and gas, energy. So these are also other important segments of the industry. If you compare construction to manufacturing, they share common principles of project management or business management, but they're different from different perspectives here. So from the stages of the project or product development here, in manufacturing, these are you study the market, you do prototyping and design, and then fabrication, then distribution. So if you think about a gadget that you buy from Amazon, when you buy it, it's just distribution. But before that, there's a lot of tasks done to have this product satisfying your needs. In construction, it's a different thing. The need is already identified by an owner, and then the owner comes and hires an architect and a design team who does the preliminary and final design, and then the contractor comes to build it. For the existence of the purchaser, manufacturing has already the purchaser does not exist in manufacturing, but in construction, the purchaser here, or mainly the building owner, in most cases exists. The product in manufacturing is based on speculation. So you speculate the market demand, but in construction it's custom made, and you wait for the demand to exist, owners to ask for builders, and then builders will show up. The risk in manufacturing is relatively smaller or lower than in construction. It's low for the producer and it's lower for the customer. And the main reason here is that you're working within a controlled environment. But in construction, it's a high risk for everyone. The owner, they have to make sure that the risk is to be within budget and to satisfy the requirements. For the builder, it's just very uncontrolled environment, outdoor environment. In manufacturing, you get paid when you sell the product, but in construction, you get paid while you build the product or the building. And then in manufacturing, they have a mass production or batch system for production. In construction, it's one-off in most of the cases. Now, industrialized construction comes and say, you can actually find or standardize some of the systems in the buildings. When we think about construction management, it's applied in different levels in the business. And we're talking here organizational level. You have the business management, which also covers how the projects are managed strategically. But then you have the construction planning and control handles the project and activity level. So they're mainly concerned with the project budget and how the activities of construction will be handled. And then in the detailed management of the tasks or the activities within the project, these will be the scope of operations management. So superintendent and foreman, this is the level of where they make decisions here. The life cycle of the project, so a project has a life. So it starts from the conception of the project all the way to the operation and management, and then the end of the life of this building or this asset. And the bottom line here is early in its life, when you are early in the concept phase of a project, you have a lot of ability to influence the cost because you did not incur a lot of cost yet. And you have a lot of ability because everything's still on the paper, and sometimes it's just ideas you have. So you have a lot of abilities and you have low cost for changing your mind. So if I change my mind from this design of a building to another, it's mainly a concept yet. So once you go into the design, there's more commitment, so there's more cost impact of that, and you lose more influence to change the design and make decisions. So in bottom line here, construction planning is helpful because planning, you can apply it in early phases in the project to make sure that you don't make decisions later that will have costly impacts on the outcomes of the project. So construction planning control, we can explain it and define it by answering these four main questions. What is planning, why we do it, who is involved in planning, and how we do planning. So what is planning? We can get definitions from Project Management Institute, PMI. So the definition is shown here. It's merely coming up with a workable plan to achieve the project objectives. And the project objectives have evolved over time. So in the old days, it was mainly time, cost, quality. And then in 1970s and 60s, safety has become a big issue. And then recently, we now have sustainability and environmental aspects. So achieving each one of these objectives need to be reflected in the plan that's put for the project. And this plan needs to be followed up and controlled and monitored. So this is construction control. So ensuring that the objectives that are reflected in the plan are monitored and met. And if there is any corrective action need to be taken, it should be done. So why we do planning? The main objective, like we said, it's to meet the project objectives defined by the owner and the project team. But also it's to avoid the dark scenario here for all the parties involved in the project. But if we talk here about contractors, studies have highlighted the reasons for contractors going out of business. And one of them is poor construction planning. So they just jump into projects without a plan, and then they meet a lot of issues, lack of resources, lack of capital or cash, inexistent, so incorrect sequencing and quality issues will happen. So poor planning is a big issue, and if contractors don't pay attention to that, they will fail. So failing to plan is planning to fail. And also planning helps to satisfy a lot of needs that you have as a construction manager in the project. So it helps you through the exercise of planning to recognize the scope, what's really being built here, and then to define the tasks and responsibilities, and you utilize your resources more efficiently. And also you track and control the project, and you know where you are in terms of the objectives, and in case things go south, so you'll be prepared for claims and disputes with any individual or party involved in the project. So who is involved in construction planning? So construction planning is done before the project starts, and it's done by the designer or the architect and engineer. And for the purpose here is to get a preliminary understanding in terms of budget and how long it will take. But the detailed planning is done by the contractor or the builder. And then construction control is done mainly by the builder here to make sure that the plan they had is followed and any actions or corrective actions are taken. So whoever is doing the planning need to have some kind of set of skills. So first, it's ability to identify and visualize the work. So it needs some technical skills in reading plans and understanding also the construction methods involved in building different systems in a facility. and also ability to relate between these different methods and sequencing the different activities on a project. So there is technical skill here for sure needed, but this can be acquired over time and by being involved in planning of project, because every project is different. So how you do planning? Planning here, you need to determine these things here. First, you need to determine what must be done, so defining the scope, how it's performed, the methods, and then the sequential order, like we explained these three things, kind of the skills now. This is what you can get out of it as outcome of planning. And in details here, these are kind of the inputs into the planning. So kind of planning is a box, so you get input and output. So input, you have to have all the information about the project, plans, specs, and then out of this you can develop more inputs. So quantities, bill of quantities. You need to define what available construction methods are available for this project, so you can select from them what's applicable in the method statement for the different activities you identified and the sequencing and all of the other outputs you have. So in the course, in this course, we'll deal with most of this list here in the coming videos. So you will learn about how to develop a work breakdown structure, how to, out of it, to develop an activities list and define the scope of each one, calculate the duration and cost, how to optimize schedules, and how to deal with resource constraint schedules and cash flows and other topics. And maybe I said construction planning is important. So some people get their attention to the plans themselves and making sure that the plans are perfected, but plans are nothing. But the planning process is everything. This is the idea here. You don't just come up with a plan and it's a rigid plan. You need to keep an eye on it and keep track it and control it and keep updating that plan. So it's a process through the life of the project. That's the kind of an introductory discussion of construction planning. In the next videos, we'll learn more about background and fundamental knowledge to deal with construction planning. So we'll learn about project delivery and other aspects before we really go into the main skills and knowledge of construction planning and control. Thanks for watching. See you in other videos.